My focus today will be very much on the value of immersive VOC. I'm going to share with you a couple of examples, one from Veeder-Root, another a bit more historic. But in both cases, my intent is to illustrate the absolute importance of deep customer insights. When I share with you regarding our Veeder-Root journey, I'll highlight those things that we did very well, and I'll also share with you those things we almost got very wrong. First, I'm going to take you back about 100 years. So if I start 100 years ago, we realize that these challenges are not new. Okay? Clarence Birdseye was born in 1886 in Brooklyn, New York. As a young man, he was very much a naturalist, enthralled by nature and wildlife. After a few years of college, Clarence was forced to drop out of school due to some unfortunate family circumstances, but then was able to head west and work for the United States Agriculture Department. In 1912, Clarence was called on with an opportunity to take part in a fish and wildlife survey in Labrador, which is now part of Canada. If any of you have ever been to Labrador, Canada, it's a little cold up there. Okay. Clarence had the opportunity while he was there to observe the local Eskimos as they caught large amounts of fish during the winter months and they froze it. And the part that really intrigued Clarence is not so much how they caught the fish, but once they thawed it, it had tasted just as fresh as if they had just caught it. And he wanted to understand why. He was intrigued. So he befriended a few of the Eskimos, and they showed him their process for how they caught fish, and they froze it almost immediately in the really cold Labrador water. And essentially what they were doing was protecting the cell structure of that fish and locking in the flavor in a process we would now call flash freezing. So a few years passed. Clarence returned back to the States. He had worked on some experiments and done some things. And in 1922, he opened the Birdseye Seafood Company. Within just 2 short years, Clarence was completely bankrupt and broke, which is not where you expected me to go, right? Okay. So what happened? Clarence had gone to Gemba. He had experimented. In fact, Clarence had a really great product. It worked super. But what Clarence didn't understand is that his customer did not have a pain point for the product he was providing. They didn't have a yearning need for it. And inevitably, it was the demise of his company at the time. Clarence was undeterred. He did go back to tinkering and some further experiments. And he perfected his process of flash freezing to where he was now able to flash freeze other things such as chicken, meats, fruits, and vegetables. And vegetables is where he really struck a chord with the U.S. Consumer. In fact, probably changing many of the ways we had lunch today. But it almost didn't happen. I challenge, if Clarence may have gone out to customers and done some customer observations, maybe a few end-user interviews, there's a good chance he would have identified his shortcomings much sooner, saving himself a whole host of time, money, and probably heartache. Now, fortunately for Clarence, he did sell that second company in 1929 for $22 million, equal to about $325 million today. So we don't need to feel bad for Clarence, but we're going to take that lesson, okay? So for a problem a little bit closer to home, there is a challenge in our industry that we know about, we're aware about, but we don't fully understand. And essentially, our fuel quality is under attack. And what does that mean? Engine manufacturers, as they develop new engines, are actually specifying tighter and tighter specifications to drive better emission quality as well as to improve efficiencies. And in that process, they're specifying much cleaner fuels than we even have available today. And at the same time, we're seeing a host of new fuels enter the market, different blends, leveraging a host of different renewable fuels, including ethanol, biodiesel. We also have a large amount of ultra-low sulfur diesel. And the reality is this: our infrastructure is not designed or built to store these fuels effectively. And we've created an environment which is essentially a breeding ground for microbial growth. And so what we've seen inside of our retail sites is really premature corrosion, both inside of our underground storage tanks as well as inside of our STP sumps. And again, it's a challenge that we're aware of but didn't quite know how to solve. And this leads really to our first key lesson. Because our customers know about this problem, we cannot accept that the customer knows how to solve their problem. And when I say their problem, it's really their problem and our problem, okay? So there are a couple of examples here. I had one customer come to me and say, you know, guys at Veeder-Root, I really need a sensor that's going to tell me how many inches of sludge I have in the bottom of my tank. I had another customer come to me and say, your competition is developing a sensor that detects corrosion. If you don't provide one, you're not going to do business with me anymore. And these are very real customers. And what they're sharing with us is their pain. And if we think about pain in our own lives, once we have pain, the first thing we want to do is find an immediate solution. And that's what they were asking us for. So what did we do? That's right. We provided them a corrosion detection sensor. Okay, so before I tell you what this sensor did, let me tell you what it didn't do. It did not solve their pain, right? We had jumped to the very first solution we could find because our customers asked us to. We captured the detection part of this problem head on. And I will tell you that that sensor worked very well. And it reminded them every day that they had a much bigger problem that we were not addressing, right? Knock, knock, guess who? It's us again. It doesn't work. Not the right direction we want to go in. And really, if we had stepped back and understood and did a little bit more market work, we would have understood that there were two other major phases to this problem, including prevention and remediation. And in order to really weed those out and understand that market, we needed immersive VOC. And that's what we started to get once we kicked off our initial Rustbuster Growth Accelerator project. So in doing that, and when we started that project, we started our first round of VOC. We chose to go broad and wide. Because inside that process, I never thought I'd say this in a business presentation, you don't know what you don't know, right? You're kind of blind. You're just jumping in, and you want to start to gain some insights. So we went broad and wide. We started to look at alternative industries. We started to examine how alternative industries were trying to manage their own microbial growth problems. In another direction, we did start to look at our customers and our industry. And what we identified was that it was not a singular corrosion solution we were trying to uncover. What we had actually uncovered was an entire fuel quality portfolio available to us that dwarfed any market we had ever imagined before. Once we got through that first round of VOC, it was time to understand our customers. And after that first round of VOC, we were able to see our customers through a lens like we never had before, which was this corrosion problem. So we started to analyze their organizations. We identified a host of personas, or essentially internal business influencers, everywhere from fleet managers to procurement personnel, as well as a director of logistics. And we started to go down those persona journey lines, understanding how at the time they were trying to manage the problem. And really what we uncovered by going down those journey lines were those personas' unmet needs, or within this methodology, what we would call their jobs to be done. And I assure you, when you're able to close out those jobs to be done, what you provide is a solution to your customer. So what you'll see here is a guy we kindly refer to as Oscar. Now, Oscar is the persona we identified as the primary target within our customers. And Oscar is a semi-fictional, he's not real, he's just a persona. But he is a fuel expert in any of our mid to large size companies. And the reason we choose Oscar as our primary contact is because he has the most pain in our customer with the greatest level of intensity. And so when we think about his pain, it really falls into a couple of buckets, which we've reviewed today. From an aspirational standpoint, Oscar wants to be a part of the industry solution. From a social aspect, Oscar wants his company to have a differentiated solution other than his competition. From an emotional standpoint, Oscar loses sleep because he worries about ending up in court or his company ending up in the news. And from a functional standpoint, he just wants the problem to go away so he can focus on other things. So with an understanding of who our customers were and how things were operating inside of their businesses, as well as an initial view of the market, we chose in our second round of VOC to go much deeper within our industry and with our customers. We did end user interviews with more than 100 end users. We met with more than 40 technology providers. We attended 11 trade show events and were guest speakers at 5. But what really happened was we became the subject matter expert inside the industry unintentionally just by being involved. Subject matter experts, distributors, contractors, everybody wanted to work with us. But the real magic that came from this second round of VOC was around rapid prototyping. We were able to test a host of prototypes with our customers, a bunch of different website designs, data sheets, foam models, in situ models. Nothing was off outside of our means to try to understand what our customers really wanted. When we look at this process, this looks very linear, but in fact, the process is actually very iterative, okay? We want to be able to test a host of solutions with our customers and get rapid responses, as well as pressure test a host of commercial models. And what we were able to do was, by applying numerical scores to these questions, guide ourselves and guide our customers towards the solution to meet their jobs to be done. And in doing that, we asked questions such as, are we even talking about the right category? Does our business model fit? Can we garner some type of commitment? Can we get beta sites? And in the end, in going through this process and collecting this data, where we were able to end up was on 2 product solutions, which leads us to where we are today. If you happen to had a chance to attend NACS in 2018, you would have seen possibly both of these products on the showroom floor. The first one, to your left, is our in-sump fuel conditioning solution. This leverages our TLS 450 Plus, as well as an in-sump fuel filtration system, which is designed to remove particulate as well as water from underground storage tanks and helps improve the fuel quality in diesel tanks. Now, we're pretty excited about this. It's already underway in 5 beta sites, and our intent is to be selling this by October of this year. On the right side, you'll see our additive injection system. This is a skid-based solution targeted at both new-to-industry sites as well as existing sites, and is designed for our customers to be able to add either cleaning agents and or biocides at the time of delivery in their site, which provides them flexibility for both their costs as well as the quality of their fuel. So what did we really learn? First and foremost, the Growth Accelerator framework reduces market uncertainty. In a relatively short period of time, we went from just thinking that we had a $10 million market, maybe some sensors, to having a high level of confidence that the market available to us was $450 million. Secondly, this Growth Accelerator process helps build a robust sales funnel. With the amount of contacts we've had no shortage of customers wanting to work with us. Overall, some key takeaways here: it is absolutely critical that you collaborate with your customers and your partners as they want to be part of the process. From an experimentation standpoint, there's never enough. Experiment and prototype everything. The insights will be amazing. From a synthesis standpoint, good quality data helps you make really strong pivots. And lastly, engage with your customers and your teams, because energized teams can truly change organizations. Based on our success, we will be kicking off a second internal Growth Accelerator process designed at connected devices for Insight 360 and Veeder-Root. And I would suggest, as you go back to your businesses, if you have the opportunity or some uncertainty in a project, you too should probably consider it. Thank you.